I'm flying and so proud, soaring high above the crowd. I will smile and shout out loud, go me, go me, go me. I will bless my house today, having fun along the way. I can't wait to start my day. Go me, go me, go me. I can do it, there's nothing to it. I'm flying through it. Go me, go me. With a smile upon my face, I will quicken the pace, knowing I can win this race. Go me, go me, go me. 15 minutes is all I've got, but I'm not gonna stop until I beat that clock. Go me, go me, go me. I can do it, there's nothing to it. I'm flying through it. Go me, go me. I'm flying and so proud, soaring high above the crowd. I will smile and shout out loud, go me, go me, go me. I'm flying and so proud,
Get on in here.
soaring high above the crowd. I will smile and shout out loud, go me, go me, go me. Go me, go me, go me.
Well, get on in here, folks. Robert's been out splitting wood, cutting wood, hauling wood, getting ready for the cold, but it's pretty warm outside. He's been out playing with the neighbor's new dog. They like to rescue dogs like we do, and there was a dog that'd been returned to the Transylvania Humane Society twice, and if the dog gets returned one more time, they're going to have to put it down. So Miss Marion and her husband went and got it. And I was looking, they have an electric fence around their property, an invisible fence, and we used to have one of those, except lightning hit it and took it out. So we don't have that anymore, but we still have the dog collars. And I was hunting for them, and I don't think I've decluttered them, but I may have, because I can't find them. That's why I was running late. I pulled everything out of my battery drawer. It also has ant killing stuff and plant food in it. 3 things in it. And I couldn't find, it's also got pet stuff in it. So 4 things. Couldn't find it, but Robert had Pooh with the puppy, and he's a little pit bull. His name is Rocky, and they have another pit bull that's named Harley, and we used to have a dog named Harley. And Harley didn't start out being Harley. Harley was a red-bone hound, and we live in the mountains, and people like their hound dogs, especially when they're hunting for bear and all kinds of things. They like their hound dogs, raccoons. And Robert came home one night from playing chess, and he said, it was in the summertime, and he said, honey, tomorrow will you go back with me to the forest and help me get this dog? I've got to take some food to him. He won't come to me. And we still had about an hour left of daylight. And I said, well, why don't we go right now? And we went out there and we took some food with us. And Harley was this emaciated red bone hound, and I have played the video of him many times helping me wash the back door. And he was just the sweetest dog. But he wouldn't come to Robert, but he would come to me. And I picked him up and put him in the truck, and we brought him home with us. And Robert and I were going on a trip the next day. And so here I've got Harley and 3 other dogs, and 2 of them run off, and we can't find them while we're on the trip. And finally, one of the dogs had a heart attack, and somebody took him to the vet, and she died. But Ginger got to come home. But Harley was this precious dog, and the reason he probably got thrown out, he didn't have a collar on or anything, was because he had seizures. He had seizures, and when you inbreed dogs, like a lot of not wise people do, they get diseases, or they get bad genetics, let's just say. And Harley had seizures. Well, one day he threw up behind Michelle's chair, and Michelle did a lot of things for me, but I never asked her to clean up dog puke, you know? So I was cleaning up the dog puke, and we didn't know Harley was having a seizure. But Harley came to himself, and I'm over the top of him, and he lunged at me and bit me in the face. At which point, Michelle was on the other side of the living room, and I raised up from behind the chair, and I said, "Harley bit me." And she said she had never seen anybody's eyes roll back in their head, but my eyes rolled back in my head, and that woman caught me before I hit the fireplace, because I fainted. Just that fast. I fainted, and she caught me. Next thing I know, we're laying in the floor, and she's got a hold of me, but I didn't hit my head. So I was bit by Harley, but Michelle saved me. So here's to Michelle, Liz's mother-in-law. But it didn't leave a scar. You can't tell it. You can't tell where he bit me. I had to have it bandaged up for a few days, but you just can't tell it. But dogs will be dogs, and when they're having a seizure, just don't mess with them. That's what I learned that day. You live and learn. So we're going to try to find the electronic dog collars from Miss Marion, because she's not real stable on her feet, and that dog is a puller. That dog is a puller. Let's see, somebody said something about okay, so that's a story. We love our pets. Most of our dogs have been my first dog, Lucy, somebody gave her to me because I lived alone, and they gave me Lucy. And Lucy, if Lucy hadn't liked Robert, I probably wouldn't have married him. That's just how much I trusted Lucy. Lucy was a good guard dog. She kept the bears away from the house. She was a good guard dog, Lucy was. She was a blue tick hound. And let's see, what was the next dog? We got Shadow. Shadow came to Hog Wild. Out at the entrance of the forest, there's a barbecue place. And Robert and I were there eating one night, and this poor, emaciated dog came up. And Robert would go out there with little packs of crackers from our salad and just all kinds of things. And he would, try to give her something to eat. And then I had a little red Subaru at the time, and I tried to get her in the car to bring her home with me, at which point she wouldn't get in the car. And then somebody whistled, and she jumped right in the car. I bought, a pound of barbecue for her. I did everything. Robert just gave it. It was snowing. It was the middle of March. It was snowing and sleeting and it was cold. And I just couldn't bear to leave that dog out in the weather, even though he'd been out. She had been out in the weather for a long time, in the winter, and she was just starving to death. So we brought her home, and she was our dog for 10 years or more. And she was a big dog. Boy, was she a big dog. She was a big, happy dog. And she would just blend into everything. So she would blend into the leaves and you couldn't see her. She was brindle. And since we collected her from the forest, I took her to get her fixed. And Dr. Brooks wouldn't fix her. He said, we got to wait 3 weeks. So we had to put it in the paper, a picture of the dog, trying to find the owner. Nobody would claim her because she was huge. She was 135 pounds when we got her, and she was emaciated. So finally, we took her to the vet after 3 weeks, and I said, nobody's claimed her. He said, okay, I will spade her. And whatever they do to female dogs. And I went to pick her up later that afternoon, and he said, you need to come in here. Because I told all the ladies about her. And he said, you need to come in here and sit down. So I went in and sat down, and he said, I put her out, and she's on the table, and we can't find any sex organs on her. And he thought she was about a year old. He said, we can find nothing. No male or female sex organs. And he said, I've been a vet for 20 years. I have never seen anything like this. There's not even the stub of a uterus there. Nothing. Nothing there. And I started crying. He said, why are you crying? And I said, well, when we took Shadow home with us, the ladies called her my angel dog. And angels don't have sex organs, so I guess she really is. And we just both cried. So Shadow was a good dog. We had her a long time. And she had a back that would go out. And she loved the chiropractor. So we would take her to the chiropractor, and he had this little thing that looks like it's a compression thing, and you pull it back like it's a spring-loaded thing, and he would do that along her spine, and she would just love it. Another time, this is God working here. This is really God. Because another time, these 2 stray dogs came up in the yard, and Shadow was having the best time playing with them, and they were running around the yard and coming up on the porch and then going through our ponds and just playing crazy. And then Shadow came up and stood I'm trying to get them to calm down, so I've got my walking stick and I'm pounding it on the front porch, trying to get their attention. And Shadow comes up and stands right beside me. Well, one of the big Labradors that are neighbor dogs, though we don't even know where they belonged. I think they were sent by God dogs. But I had been looking for a chiropractor for a dog in Asheville, looking for somebody to help, because Shadow couldn't hardly walk, and her tail was hanging limp, like she couldn't lift it, and they wanted to amputate her tail, and her tail was that big around. And I thought, well, she just needs an adjustment. She just needs an adjustment. And that dog came up on the front porch, one of the black dogs, came up behind Shadow, and got on her like he was trying to mate with her. And the next thing I know, I hear Shadow go, "Ooh!" And she could wag her tail after that. So I just had to thank God that God sent me a dog chiropractor to take care of the puppy. Oh my. God is funny. He really is funny. But it worked. It really did work. So I got one of those tools to do adjustments on her, and she likes it. She did like it until she passed away. Life is good, and it's so much better with pets. It just really is. It's just so much better with pets. If you don't have a pet, you're missing out on a lot of love. A lot of love. A few years ago, we had to put Chief to sleep. He had cancer real bad, and he was 150 pounds, and we took him to the vet. Had to have a horse trailer to take him. I had to put him in a horse trailer to take him to the vet because he couldn't walk hardly, and we had to have some support for him because he couldn't walk. And so we got him to the vet, and it wasn't good. It wasn't good. And so we had to put him down. Well, at the same time, Eric Dodge's dog got hit by a truck. So a day apart, we both lost our dogs. And then this past Thanksgiving, I lost Ben, and he lost his grandmother within a day of each other. So we're consoling each other over our pets and our family. And it's hard. It's hard to lose a pet. It's hard to lose a family member. But that's why in January, we lost Chief on December the 12th. And then we went about 5 weeks later to the animal shelter, which Dr. Brooks was in charge of building. It was his project. He raised the money for it. He did a good job too. God rest his soul. I love Dr. Brooks. He'd make house calls. And so we went to look for puppies. We decided we had a boy dog. We had a blue tick hound dog named Loki. And Loki was he was a little selfish dog. He liked everything himself, but he was a good team player. But he had become the only dog, and he was lonesome. He was so lonesome. So we thought we need to get him a puppy. And so we went to the animal shelter, and they had a litter of about 6 little puppies, little Walker Hound puppies. And that most of them were boys. But this little girl dog kept pulling Robert's shoelaces. And I said to Robert, I think she likes you. And we wanted a girl dog anyway. And so we brought Tulip home. She was this big. And she was just the sweetest little puppy. Just sweet. She still is sweet. She is sweet. So if you lose a pet, don't rob yourself of the ability to love. Get another dog right quick. It's going to be good for you. It's going to be good for you to share that love, especially now when we're staying home more. And there's been a shortage of puppies. So Tulip is a good puppy. She's our puppy. She's the only one we got right now. We had a visitor dog this past week while the kids went on winter break, I guess you'd call it. They went skiing, and it was a different thing for them. It was all isolated skiing. So it was kind of strange. Anyway, folks, y'all have a good rest of the day. I don't know if my soup's going to be any good. I put a can of Rotel in it. I didn't look at the label on it, and it was hot Rotel. And you can't hardly put it in your mouth, so I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't have a clue. I'll let Robert play with it. He can usually get stuff tasting good. Anyway, if you don't have a pet, find you one. There's plenty out there. I love you all. I will see you later. Don't forget about our sales. The feather duster is going away tomorrow. The feather duster sale is going away tomorrow. And then we have the Swish and Swipe package. So y'all get those bathrooms cleaned up. Yep.